The label's still warm when I stick it down. It's the usual thin strip, glossy enough to catch the overhead lights, stubborn enough to wrinkle if I don't lay it flat the first time. Black bars, a long number underneath, clean, centered, normal. I run my thumb across it once just to make sure it's sealed. Then I bring the scanner over like I've done it 1,000 times. The scanner beeps and a case opens on the screen. It's not the case I'm holding. Different title, different address. The kind of address you remember because it's nowhere near where you're standing. For a second, I assume I clipped the wrong barcode, that I caught something nearby, that I'm being sloppy, and I'll laugh at myself once I slow down. So I do it again, square to the label, no angle, no glare. I wait for the red line to finish its sweep. Beep, same wrong case. Same wrong address. It comes up fast, smooth, like it's the only place that code belongs. I back out, reopen the case I'm actually trying to work in, and scan a third time. I lift the folder off the table so there's nothing underneath it, nothing beside it, nothing to blame. I hold it out in the air like that's going to make the system behave. Beep. It pulls that same case again. No lag, no invalid, no little spinning wheel, just a clean jump straight into it like a shortcut someone made on purpose. I stare at the screen, then at the label, then back at the screen, waiting for the obvious explanation to show up on its own. I peel the label up halfway to check the print. The barcode's crisp. The number matches what I just sent to the printer. I press it back down and smooth it like it's a crooked picture frame and I can fix it with enough pressure. I swap scanners. The second one's older, scuffed, the kind that's been dropped enough times to earn tape around the battery door. I scan from a different angle. I scan with the label tilted toward the light. I scan with my hand casting a shadow over it, like glare is the culprit. Nothing changes. And then the part that should have felt normal starts to feel wrong in a quieter way. That case is already filled out, not finished, not closed, but lived in. Fields populated, checkboxes set, a status line that's already chosen, a note section that isn't empty. And the timestamp at the top says it was updated a few seconds ago, not a vague today, not earlier in the shift, a few seconds ago. I scroll without thinking, just enough to see the evidence list. There's an entry sitting there already. Item 1, a barcode number. It's the number on the label I'm holding in my hand. I don't move for a second. I don't even blink the normal way. It's not dramatic. It's just my brain trying to decide where to put something that doesn't fit anywhere, like a puzzle piece from a different box. The guy at the next desk still doesn't look up when I speak. It's pulling the wrong case again, I said. Try a different scanner, he said calmly. I already did, I said. My voice stays level. I don't point at the screen. I don't say the number out loud. I don't give the problem more air than it deserves, because small glitches happen, and the fastest way to make a small glitch bigger is to treat it like a mystery. I set the scanner down. I set the folder down. I tap the label once more, like that's the part that's misbehaving. Then I do what people always do with problems that don't have teeth yet. I move it to the side and tell myself it's just the system. My name's Grant Caldwell. I'm a civilian CSI for LA County. That means I show up after the shouting, after the running, after the sirens have already done their job. I'm there for what's left. The part nobody wants to look at twice. The part that has to be measured, photographed, bagged, tagged, and explained without drama. Most days start the same way. Gloves, camera, batteries, a second set of batteries because the first set always lies to you. Evidence bags in every size, paper tape, a marker that writes on wet plastic. I check my kit the way some people check their pockets for keys. It isn't superstition, it's math. If one thing's missing, you don't notice until you need it, and by then, it's too late. I ride out when they need me. Sometimes it's an apartment where a fight went too far. Sometimes it's a parking lot with a body under a tarp and a line of faces trying not to stare. Sometimes it's a quiet house where nothing looks wrong until you get close enough to see what's on the carpet. You don't get used to it, not really. You just get better at moving through it without making it about you. Ethan's usually the one driving when I'm paired up. He's a deputy, broad shoulders, tired eyes, a voice that always sounds like he's halfway through a long shift even when it's early. He calls things fast, keeps people back, and treats the scene like it's a living thing that bites if you step wrong. "You're too clean for this job," Ethan said. He wasn't being mean. It was his version of small talk. I didn't take it personally. I just tugged my gloves tighter and kept my hands where I could see them. Nora runs our end of it. Supervisor. The kind of person who can stare at a room full of chaos and only see check boxes. She doesn't waste words, and she doesn't care how tired you are. When she wants something done, she wants it done the right way or not at all. "Bag it, tag it, don't freestyle," Nora said. I've heard that line more times than I can count, and I still nod every time. In our world, freestyle is how you end up on a stand with a lawyer smiling at you like your dinner. The work is simple in a way. You take what's there and you make it portable. A shell casing becomes a tiny item number. A torn scrap of fabric becomes a sealed bag with a date, a time, a location, initials. You turn a room into a diagram. You turn a mess into something that can survive an argument. Then you hand it off. Serena's the gate at the evidence locker. She's not loud, but she's sharp. She doesn't miss a broken seal. She doesn't miss a number written sloppy. She doesn't miss anything that can be used against you later. "If the seal's wrong, it's dead in court," Serena said. She says it like she's warning you about bad weather. Matter of fact. Not dramatic. Just true. I'm not new to this job, but I'm not old enough in it to be careless. I'm still fixated on procedure in a way that makes some people roll their eyes. It isn't because I love rules. It's because I've seen what happens when a small mistake gets to pretend it's harmless. I watched a case fold once because a label got smudged, not ripped, not missing, just smudged enough that a defense attorney could say it might have been switched. The guy walked, and the family sat there looking like the room had betrayed them. After that, I started treating every little step like it mattered, because it did. Back at the office, I spend as much time in front of a screen as I do under flashing lights. Photos get uploaded, notes get typed, items get logged into RMS, times, places, names, numbers. It's boring, and it's important, and it never ends. Calvin is the guy you call when the system doesn't behave. He doesn't wear a uniform. He doesn't carry a gun. He carries a lanyard, a laptop, and the kind of patience that only comes from being blamed for things you didn't break. RMS is held together with gum, Calvin said. He said it like a joke, but it wasn't really a joke. County systems are huge. They're patched and updated and patched again. Things go down, things lag. Fields don't save right. Photo uploads hang at 99% and make you want to throw your phone. It's normal to see a timestamp jump by a minute when a photo finally processes. It's normal to type in a field and watch it reset when the connection hiccups. It's normal to refresh a page and find yourself logged out like the system forgot you were there. We complain, we restart, we move on. That's the rhythm. You don't stare at it too long. You don't personalize it. I keep my own habits to stay sane. I name files the same way every time. I double-check item numbers before I seal a bag. I initial clean and legible. I keep a small notebook with dates and quick notes, the kind you can't lose to a timeout or a frozen screen. And when something acts up, I treat it like what it usually is, a nuisance. I don't turn it into a story. I don't give it a mood. I don't pretend it means something. The day that Barcode pulled up the wrong case, I filed it under that same category. A weird tech glitch, a county problem, something Calvin would get to when he could. Nora heard me mention it in passing, and her attention didn't even shift. She had a stack of priorities that could crush a person. "Don't make it my problem," Nora said quietly. So I didn't. I did my scenes, I logged my items, I uploaded my photos, I watched a couple of timestamps jump like they always do, and I didn't think twice about it. I watched a field reset and I typed it again, annoyed but not worried. And I went on believing that if I kept everything tight, if I kept everything clean, the system would stay a tool. Just a tool. It didn't happen all at once. It didn't even happen in a way that felt dramatic. It came in small, separate pieces, spread out across days, like the system was testing how much it could change before anyone noticed. The first time I caught it, I almost talked myself out of it. We'd worked a scene that morning, a quick turnaround, a small place, not a lot of items. I sealed everything the way I always do, signed where I always sign, and dropped it at the evidence locker before lunch. Serena was there, doing her usual routine, eyes on the seals, hands moving fast. Later that afternoon, I pulled the chain of custody log to finish up the report. I wanted the timestamps to match my notes. I wanted the handoff to look clean. My name was in the log twice, not just the entry that made sense. There was another one, same date. A time window I recognized, because I'd been somewhere else, not in the building, not near the locker, not even in the same part of the county. The log said I'd handled the evidence again. It wasn't vague, it wasn't a typo. It had my user ID, my initials, the whole neat little breadcrumb trail. I walked straight back to the locker and pulled Serena aside. I didn't accuse her, I didn't accuse anybody. I just pointed at the screen and waited for the obvious explanation. "That log says you touched it," Serena insisted. "I wasn't even here," I said. She looked at me like I'd told her the sky was purple. Serena doesn't care about vibes, she cares about paper. She cares about what can be proven. So she did what she always does when something doesn't line up. She checked the seals, she checked the bag, she checked the item number. Everything physical looked fine. That almost made it worse. My brain went looking for normal reasons, a delayed sync that stamped the wrong time, a cached session that got posted late, a template that duplicated an entry, a permissions issue where my ID got used as a placeholder because the system didn't know what else to do. None of that felt good, but all of it was possible. Systems do stupid things. People don't need ghosts for paperwork to go sideways. I called Calvin. He did his thing, the calm shuffle of a man who's seen every flavor of broken. He pulled access logs, token histories, the trail behind the trail. He didn't act like it was weird. He didn't act like I was crazy. He just kept his voice low so it wouldn't spread. "Nobody's in your account," Calvin said quietly. Ethan was in the room too, leaning against the doorframe like he didn't care, but I could see he was listening. He'd been through enough to know that when the paperwork gets strange, people get hurt in ways that don't show up in photos. "Then who is?" Ethan snapped. Calvin didn't have an answer, not a real one. He had a shrug and a tired look that said, "If I had a person to blame, I'd give you a name." But there was nothing. No outside login, no remote session, no second device, no red flags. He told me to change my password anyway. He told me to log out of everything and back in. He told me it could be a glitch that would never happen again. I wanted to believe him. I did what he said. I moved on. The second incident came from a witness statement. It wasn't even mine. I was just the one who noticed because I'm the kind of person who reads transcripts, even when everyone else is done with them the second they are uploaded. It was a basic statement, nothing special. A guy who'd been outside at the wrong time, saw something from across the street, gave a couple of details that might matter later. The audio was clear. I remember that because the voice had this slight rasp, like he'd been yelling earlier in the day. The transcript came through the system, and I skimmed it with the lazy confidence of someone who expects text to stay put once it's on the page. Then I read it again, slower, because one line didn't sit right. It said he'd heard something. I could have sworn he'd said he saw it. It wasn't a huge change. One word. 4 letters. But it changed the shape of the statement. Heard is less reliable. Heard is easier to shrug off. Heard doesn't put a person in the same place in the same way. I pulled the audio file and played it back. He said, saw. Clear as day. I refreshed the transcript. It still said heard. I refreshed again. Same thing. I copied the line into my notes the way I remembered it, and then I stopped. Because I realized I was acting like I was in an argument with a screen, like the screen had an opinion, like it could win. So I made it practical. I took a screenshot of the transcript. I saved it to a separate folder on a drive I didn't sync to anything. I wrote the time down in my little notebook, not because I expected the pen to save me, but because paper doesn't refresh itself. I told myself it was just transcription software, autocorrect, a glitch that latched onto the wrong word. The system still didn't feel like a thing. It felt like a mess. Then the third incident hit, and it came from a photo. We'd worked a scene at a small business, clean tile floor, bright lights, not a lot of clutter. I took the photos myself. I remember because the angle mattered. The evidence was the kind of detail people miss if you don't get low enough. There was a small smear on the baseboard near the corner. Not dramatic, just a faint line, like something had been dragged or wiped. It caught in the flash. It gave me a reference point. Back at the office, I uploaded the set and watched them process. I did other work while the progress bar crawled. When it was done, I opened the gallery to check the quality, the focus, the exposures. The corner looked too clean. Same baseboard, same lighting, same framing. But that faint smear wasn't there. I zoomed in. I zoomed out. I checked the original file on my camera. The smear was there in the original. In the synced copy, it was gone. Not blurred, not compressed away. Gone like it had never existed. I sat there long enough for my coffee to go cold. My first instinct was to assume I'd uploaded the wrong file. Maybe I grabbed an earlier shot. Maybe I mixed sequences. Maybe I was tired and my brain was building a pattern out of nothing. So I checked the file name. It matched. I checked the timestamp from the camera. It matched. I checked the image number. It matched. Only the detail was missing. At that point, I stopped trying to argue with it in my head. I started collecting. Not evidence for court, evidence for myself. I kept hand notes. I kept a separate storage device that didn't live on the network. I saved originals and screenshots. I wrote down what I saw and when I saw it, because I didn't trust that the system would let me see it the same way twice. I didn't tell everyone. I didn't go around warning people. I tried to keep it small. I tried to keep it contained. That was the point. I wanted a rational explanation. I wanted to hand Calvin a neat little package of reproducible errors. Nora caught wind of it anyway. She always does. "Drop it, Grant," Nora said. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten me. It was worse than that. It was the tone that says, "I've seen this before, and it never ends well." "I can't," I said. I didn't mean it like a challenge. I meant it like a fact. Because once you notice something changing, once you see it happen in 3 different ways, you can't go back to pretending it's a nothing. You can't make your eyes unsee it. You can't make your hands forget the way a seal feels when you press it down. And the strangest part Wasn't any single glitch. It was the timing. Every time I tried to keep a true copy, every time I tried to preserve the thing as it was, the system didn't just lag or crash. It corrected, it adjusted, it smoothed things out like a thumb over wet paint, like it didn't want the rough edges documented. Like it didn't want a version of the story that couldn't be rewritten. The call comes in hot, the kind that doesn't wait for you to finish a sentence, an address, a short note, a tone in the dispatcher's voice that says it's already moving fast and we're just trying to keep up. Ethan swings the wheel like he's done it his whole life. I sit there with my kit between my feet, steadying it with a hand that feels too calm for what the radio's saying. When we pull up, it's a small place. No crowd, no flashing lights yet. Just a porch light that's on in the middle of the day and a front door that's half open like somebody didn't have time to close it. We go in. He's on the floor in the living room. Young enough that it hits me wrong. Not a kid, but not old. His face has that gray edge that makes you think you're late. But his chest is still moving. Shallow, uneven. A struggle, but it's there. I crouch down close enough to see his lips tremble when he exhales. He's breathing. He's still here, I said. Ethan's already on the radio, voice tight, calling for EMS, giving the address, keeping it crisp. He's the kind of guy who can sound calm even when he isn't. I keep my eyes on the victim's chest. Up, down, up. I do what I can without turning it into a circus. I don't touch what I don't need to touch. I don't move him. I note the position, the room, the way one shoe is half off like he tried to stand and couldn't. I take one quick photo just to lock it in because I've learned the hard way that your memory isn't a safe place for anything. My phone buzzes. A system notification. I shouldn't have looked, that's the truth. I could have left it in my pocket and waited until we were out of the room. But I'd already trained myself to watch the record the way you watch weather, like it's something that can change the ground under your feet. So I glanced down. The case is open. The address is correct. The basic fields are there, the usual blanks waiting to be filled, and the status line flips, not slowly, not with a lag. It flips like someone clicked it with intent. DOA. Finalized. Ethan sees it too because his radio call stutters. Dispatch has him DOA, Ethan barked. That's wrong, I said. I didn't say it like an argument. I said it because I could still see the guy's chest moving. I could still see the small fight in him, the way his throat flexed when he tried to swallow air. And then his chest stopped. Not like he took one last dramatic breath, not like a movie. It was quieter than that. Like someone turned something off. The skin on his neck changed in front of me, going from clammy to cold in a way that didn't feel like time passing. It felt like time being replaced. I put my fingers near his nose without touching him, just to feel for it. Nothing. No warm push of air, no faint breath, nothing. I look at Ethan, and for the first time since we walked in, he looks unsure. He doesn't say it, but I can see the thought. We weren't too late. We were here. We were watching him, and the record still won. My phone buzzes again. Another automated chime like it's proud of itself. The screen shows the case status locked, a clean little confirmation. Final. My mouth goes dry. I know what I'm not supposed to do. I know the rule. Don't touch records in the middle of a call. Don't make changes that turn into questions later. But that's when procedure stops being a safety rail and starts being a rope around your throat. I unlock my phone and go into the case. My fingers move fast, not because I'm panicking, but because I'm trying to outrun the thing I've been watching for days. I tap the status line. I try to change it back. I try to reopen. I try to put anything there that isn't final. It won't take it. The field snaps back. DOA. Finalized. I hit edit again. Same result. It's like the system is letting me try just so it can refuse me cleanly. The victim's skin keeps cooling. His lips go a dull blue. The room feels colder than it should. Not in a supernatural way, in a practical way, like the air conditioner kicked on and nobody heard it. Outside, a siren rises in the distance. Ethan paces a step, then two, like he wants to do something, anything. But there isn't anything left to do. You can't argue a body into breathing. You can't shame a heart into starting. My phone vibrates in my hand. I look down and see the lock icon next to the status field, like a stamp. I try a different way. I go to the narrative section, where you can add a note, where you can explain, where you can leave a trace. The cursor appears. Then the text box grays out. I can still see it. I can still tap it. But nothing sticks. Like writing on glass with a dry pen, the radio crackles. "Stop typing, Grant," Nora warned. I freeze for half a second, shocked that she even knows. Then I remember the system. The system sees everything. The system doesn't just store, it watches. I don't answer her. I don't have words for it. I keep my thumb hovering over the screen like I'm holding a live wire. Ethan's at the doorway now, looking down the hall, listening for EMS. He wants witnesses. He wants someone else in the room so he doesn't feel like we're alone with it. "EMS is going to see him," Ethan said. I look at the victim again, and all I can think is, what are they going to see? A body that's already been decided. We clear the room for EMS when they arrive. We step back the way you're supposed to, hands visible, space open. Let 'em work, even when there's nothing to work. Serena's voice comes through on the phone speaker. She's not here, but it feels like she's standing right behind me, watching my hands. "They'll see what the screen tells them," Serena muttered. It lands heavy, not because it's poetic, because it's true. I've watched people treat the record like it's the event itself. Like the words on the screen are more real than the blood on the floor. The paramedics come in fast. They look at the victim, they check, they confirm. Their faces don't change much. It's not their first dead body. They do the motions anyway, because the motions are part of their own procedure. Then one of them glances at the phone on Ethan's belt, and I see it in his eyes. Relief. Not relief that someone's alive. Relief that the paperwork matches. Ethan steps between me and the room without thinking. "Get back," Ethan said. I don't argue. I step into the hallway and lean against the wall like my legs are suddenly heavy. My hands smell like latex and cold air. My phone is still open in my palm, the screen bright and indifferent. DOA finalized. We ride back in silence, not the comfortable kind. The kind where every noise feels like it might be the wrong noise. The engine hum. The turn signal click. My own breathing too loud. When we get back to the station, I go straight to the printer without telling myself why. I don't have a plan. I just need to see if the world is still doing that thing where it pretends it's normal. There's a stack of labels sitting in the output tray, fresh, damp to the touch, like they've been in a fridge. The ink looks slightly smeared, not ruined, just softened. And every single one of them has the same status line printed cleanly. DOA, same case number, same address, like the printer's been working while we were gone, finishing the story for us. I take one label and pinch it between my fingers. It feels wrong, cold and wet in a room that isn't cold at all. I open the case on my screen again and scroll down past the basics, past the narrative field that won't accept me, past the locked status. There's a section I haven't noticed before, or maybe I've noticed it and my brain filed it away as meaningless. Finalization lock, handler of record. The handler field is empty, not blank because nobody's filled it in. Empty, like the system refuses to hold a name there, like it's been scraped clean. I stare at it until my eyes sting. Then I back out without saving anything, because there's nothing to save. And for the first time, I understand something without wanting to. This isn't just a glitch that happens. It's a thing that finishes. I didn't sleep much after that call. I didn't keep replaying the body on the floor either. I kept replaying the screen, the little lock icon, the way the status changed first and the person followed it like a shadow. I tried to tell myself it was coincidence, that the timing only felt tight because I was watching too closely, that my brain wanted a pattern so badly it was willing to weld two events together just to stop feeling powerless. But I'd seen enough of those small glitches to know they didn't line up like that. They didn't line up clean. They didn't hit the same spot twice. They didn't act like they were correcting something. So I started treating it the way I treat anything I can't ignore. I broke it down like work. What do I know? What do I have? What can I prove without begging anyone to believe me? First, I pulled every case I could remember where the system had acted strange. Timestamp jumps that didn't make sense, fields that reset after being filled, a transcript that didn't match the audio, a photo that lost a detail after sync. I didn't grab hundreds. I grabbed enough to see if it had a shape. The shape was there. The common point wasn't a type of call. It wasn't a location. It wasn't a witness. It wasn't even the same units responding. It was the record itself, and when it became final. That's what connected it. The moment a case crossed from in progress to finalized, everything around it stopped being flexible. Not just on a screen, in the world. Details stopped being uncertain. Statements stopped being messy. Outcomes stopped being arguable. And when I tried to resist it, it didn't crash. It didn't error out. It didn't spiral into obvious malfunction. It tightened. It locked harder. It refused my input. It cleaned up the edges like it could feel a hand trying to pull the story back into the real world, and it didn't want that hand on the page. I went down to the evidence locker to talk to Serena because she's the one person who lives inside chain of custody the way some people live inside their own skin. If there was a version of this that existed before I noticed it, she'd have seen the residue. She didn't greet me like normal. She didn't ask how I was holding up. She just watched my face for a second, then opened a drawer and slid out a file that looked like it had been handled too many times and then forgotten. Inside were old printouts, old seals, old logs, the kind of stuff that should have stayed boring forever. Handler names were missing, not crossed out, not smudged, gone, empty fields where a person should have been, and in a few spots there were only numbers left. Employee IDs without the employees, serial formats without the names that used to anchor them. It wasn't just one case either. It wasn't a freak occurrence. It was a trail, spaced out over years, and every time it happened, the paperwork looked cleaner afterward, less human, less trace. I stared at one page longer than I should have. There was a line where a handoff should have been. It had a timestamp. It had a location. It had a seal number. It had everything except the person, like the system remembered that something happened but refused to remember who did it. "It's not random," I said. "Don't say that out loud," Serena said. She didn't sound scared. She sounded practical, like she was trying to keep me from breaking a rule I didn't know existed. Like she'd watched people make the mistake of naming things, even casually, and then pay for it. I asked her how far back it went. I didn't ask it like a ghost story. I asked it like a records request. She didn't answer directly. She just slid the file back into the drawer and closed it with a quiet click that felt final all by itself. Back upstairs, I pulled up the case from the DOA call again. The handler field was still empty. The lock field still sat there like a deadbolt. I tried to view audit history. It gave me a clean set of entries that looked normal until you read them twice. It claimed I'd done things I hadn't done. It claimed the system had done things on schedule. It claimed the case had always been going this direction. I watched the record keep its posture no matter what angle I looked at it from. It was steady in a way that felt wrong. I went to Nora after that because there's a point where you either speak to your supervisor or you become the guy who's hiding something. Nora doesn't tolerate hiding, not because she's moral, because hiding makes paperwork messy, and messy makes everyone's life harder. I told her what I saw without dressing it up. I kept it tight. I kept it professional. I didn't call it impossible. I called it inconsistent. I called it a system integrity issue. I called it a risk. She didn't lean back. She didn't blink slow. She didn't do any of the body language people use when they're preparing to comfort you. She looked at me like I was trying to hand her a bomb and asking her to hold it. If it's final, it stays final, Nora insisted. That was her whole answer. That was the line she wanted me to live inside. Final means final. Final protects the process. Final means we stop touching it. Final means we stop making it worse. I understood why she said it. In our world, reopening a record is like reopening a wound. Everything bleeds again. Everyone gets questioned again. Every decision you made gets held up to the light by people who weren't there. But I couldn't get past what I'd watched happen on that floor. I couldn't accept final as safety anymore because I'd seen it act like a weapon. I went back to Calvin next, not because he had answers, but because he had access. He pulled deeper logs. He checked system-level settings. He even checked print queue history when I told him about the labels in the tray. He frowned at that. The first real crack in his calm. The print job shouldn't have existed. No one had sent it, no one had queued it, and still the printer had fed out a neat stack of DOA labels like it was catching up on work. Calvin didn't argue with me. He didn't laugh. He didn't call it haunted. He kept it in the realm he understood. Permissions, automation, scripts, corrupted jobs. He found nothing that had a human fingerprint. That's when he looked at me like he was choosing his words the way you choose where to stand in a room full of broken glass. "That'll get you fired," Calvin said. He meant it the way a friend means it, not as a threat, as a warning. Because he knew what the system looked like from the inside, and he knew what people did when the system got embarrassed. I didn't tell him he was wrong. I didn't tell him I didn't care. I just felt the floor shift under me in a quiet way. Fired was a normal consequence. Fired was something you could survive. Fired was paperwork. Fired was a story you could tell later. But this thing wasn't just punishing mistakes. It was removing hands from the record like they were stains. "Or erased," I said quietly. The word tasted stupid in my mouth, not because it was dramatic, because it sounded like something you'd only say in a movie. And I hated that. I hated giving it language that felt unreal, but I couldn't find a more accurate word for what I'd seen in Serena's drawer. I didn't go home after that. I went outside and sat in my car for a while. I watched people come and go from the building like it was all still normal, like the walls weren't full of screens writing our lives into boxes. I tried to think like Nora. I tried to think like a person who believes final is final. I tried to put myself in the headspace where the record is just documentation, not an engine. It didn't work. Because if the record could pull reality toward it, then the act of documenting wasn't neutral anymore. It wasn't just describing, it was deciding. Every time you wrote something down, you were pushing the world toward a version of itself. And that meant my job wasn't a job, not the way I'd thought it was. It was leverage. That's when I called Lena. I didn't know her well. She wasn't county staff. She floated around the edges of cases the way defense people do, always late in the process, always digging through what we'd already locked down. The first time I met her, she'd asked for a photo set and then pointed out a tiny inconsistency nobody wanted to admit. She didn't do it with attitude. She did it with patience, like she genuinely believed truth mattered, even if it was inconvenient. We met somewhere neutral, bright lights, public space, a place where everyone could pretend we were having a normal conversation. I told her I needed to show her something. I didn't tell her the whole story. I didn't even tell her the part about DOA. I kept it to the thing she'd understand best, a transcript that didn't match the audio, a system that insisted its version was the official one. She didn't act surprised. She pulled a folder from her bag, thick with printouts, sticky notes, copies of copies. She showed me a case where a single word in a transcript shifted the meaning just enough to matter. Saw became heard, didn't became did. A clean little adjustment that turned uncertainty into certainty. The audio file was missing in discovery, not lost, not delayed, missing like it had never existed. The transcript stood alone, stamped, processed, official. She told me how it played out without making it theatrical. The court believed what was in the packet. The judge believed what was in the system. The jury believed what was presented as the record. Nobody wanted to hear about missing audio. Nobody wanted to hear about software. Nobody wanted to hear about how fragile official really was. Because official is comforting. Official means you don't have to question your own eyes. Then don't let it go final, Lena said. I stared at her like she'd just offered me a way to stop gravity, like she'd said something simple and impossible at the same time. Not let it go final meant refusing to complete a report. It meant holding a case in limbo. It meant keeping everything soft, uncertain, unsealed. It meant fighting the system with the only power I had, delay. But delay isn't free. Delay puts you on a list. Delay makes supervisors ask questions. Delay makes prosecutors call. Delay makes people start watching you like you're the problem. And if this thing reacted to resistance, if it tightened when I pushed back, then delay wasn't just a career risk. It was a personal risk. That was the decision sitting in front of me, and it wasn't dramatic. It was paperwork. File it, and I lock the outcome. I help it finish. I give it the stamp it wants. Fight it, and I put my own name on the cutting board. I drove back to the station with my hands gripping the wheel too hard. I didn't feel brave. I didn't feel righteous. I felt tired, and that scared me more than panic would have. Tired people make compromises. Tired people accept what they shouldn't. So I made a plan that wasn't brave. It was just stubborn. I started building a proof set that couldn't be smoothed out by a sink. Not one copy, multiple, redundant, physical, and ugly. Film photos, the kind you have to develop, the kind that don't change because a server decides they should. Hand notes with dates and times, written in ink that doesn't refresh. Screenshots printed on paper. And one small item that didn't belong to any system. Something you could hold that didn't have a barcode the county could claim. I didn't pick anything dramatic. I picked something boring, because boring survives. A small, plain object that would look meaningless to anyone else, but would matter to me because of where it came from and what it proved. Then I moved it out. Not into my house, not into my locker, not into any place with a badge reader and a camera and a sign-in sheet. Somewhere the system couldn't reach by accident, somewhere it couldn't quietly correct. I didn't feel safe doing it. I felt watched doing it. But I did it anyway, because there was only one thing worse than being wrong, being right and having nothing left to show for it. It doesn't happen with a bang. It happens the way a system corrects a typo, quiet, clean, like it was always supposed to be that way. The next time I come in, my badge doesn't read at the gate. I try it again, slower, then faster, like speed matters. The reader stays dark. No beep, no green light, just nothing. I step to the side to let other people through. They tap their badges, the gate opens, and nobody looks at me like it's unusual that I'm standing there stuck. I walk around to the front desk, because that's what you do when a badge stops working. You don't panic. You ask for a replacement. The guy behind the counter doesn't recognize me. Not in the casual way people forget names. In the full way, like he's never seen my face in this building. "Can I help you?" the front desk guy asked. I tell him my name. I tell him my department. I keep it simple. He turns his monitor so I can't see it and types like he's searching for a record that should exist. His eyes don't change. He just gets more certain. He tells me he can't find me. I ask him to check the schedule. He checks. Blank where my shift should be. Like I took a month off. Like I never got hired. Like the space my name used to occupy has been smoothed over. I step away before I start sounding desperate. I don't want the wrong kind of attention. I walk the hall anyway, because I know the layout better than the front desk guy thinks I do. I see people I've worked with. Some look through me, some look at me and then look away like eye contact might make it worse. Ethan passes in the distance and doesn't slow down. He keeps his shoulders tight, gaze forward like he's following a rule he didn't write. I find Serena at the evidence locker, and for a second, I feel relief. If anyone's going to acknowledge reality, it's her. She looks up when she hears my steps. Her face goes still. "You don't work here," Serena said softly. It lands harder than yelling would have. Soft means she's not trying to embarrass me. Soft means she's telling me the truth as gently as she can. Soft means she's scared of being too loud about it. I don't argue. I can't. Because if I argue, I'm arguing with the same thing that blanked my name from the schedule. I'm arguing with a record that's already decided what I am. I drift toward the work area, toward the scanners, toward the part of the building that still feels like mine even if it isn't. My hands do what they always do when I'm thinking. They reach for a tool. There's a random folder on a counter, some ordinary case packet someone left behind. I don't pick it because it matters. I pick it because it doesn't. I scan the barcode like I'm proving to myself that at least numbers still behave. The scanner beeps and the screen opens a case. It's that same other case, same address, same title, same clean, active look like it's been waiting patiently for me to come back. My stomach drops in a slow way. Not fear. Recognition. Behind me, a voice comes out low, like he doesn't want the walls to hear him. "It keeps choosing you," Calvin whispered. I turned toward the printer without thinking. The output tray is full, not jammed, not erroring, just full, like someone's been feeding it paper all morning. Blank labels slide out one by one, no handler, no name. Just a case number and a status line stamped hard and final. Final. The printer keeps working like breathing, steady and thoughtless, as if the building itself is exhaling paper. And I stand there, holding a scanner that won't let me go, staring at a record that won't let me exist.